Hello, my name's Sean Brown from WiSen Innovation, and in this WiSen Quick Guide video series, I'm going to highlight the remote command controls within the web platform, both for level 2 and level 3 users. Okay, so first of all, you can see here I'm logged in as admin in Cardio, and I'm an L2 distributor user. We're going to go into the project of interest. And we can see here we have this project has 2 gateways, several 8-channel vibrating interface nodes, and 2 omnidistance tilt meters. What I've done previous to this, obviously, you can see on the time interval for gateway ending in 5B, I have changed the time interval to 15 minutes. We can also see other metadata, which is quite useful: the radio signal sensitivity, the mesh battery, and the temperature. We go along to the right, we're looking at the timestamp since it last connected to the phone mast. And the timestamp we see here on the left-hand side is the timestamp for the data on the server. So 2 different timestamps. We're then looking at the DC input voltage. Now this is an incorrect voltage, so this might need reviewing. So typically here in the UK, we have an incoming mains power that would be 12 volts. So we'd be seeing 12 volts here, or we'd have a solar charge controller unit, or we'd have an external battery unit. Each of those would have a higher DC voltage than you would appear here. If we click on the actual voltage itself, we can see down the bottom of the screen. And if we reviewed this over, say, the past 30 days since the equipment was delivered, then I can see here that on the date of the 12th of the 1st, there was a connection to a power source, an insufficient power source, because we need to be looking at a voltage within the ambers you see here. So this is for the external incoming voltage. Just going to close this screen. And if we go back and we look at the other voltage, and the 2.94, this is the D-cell batteries internally of the gateway. So in the first instance, if you've got a secondary incoming power, this voltage here is the backup, this is the UPS power, and this is the main power in the system. So something's incorrect here. You might want to share some details on what your DC in voltage and how you've connected that up to the actual gateway itself. If we press status, we can just have a look a bit more information about the gateway. We can see the firmware version. We can see the upload ratio. So sample to upload ratio is 1:1. That's why the 1 number is here. So if it reads every 3 minutes, it uploads every 3 minutes. The connection duration, the device uptime. So the read, write, read. So if we know the data is stacking up on the actual SD card for whatever various reason, we can have a look at that aspect. We know the SD card status is good and the read status is good. And the default details here pushing the data to the WiSen server. The second aspect is the network info. So CSQ, signal quality. We've got the IMSI, which is the details of the SIM within the gateway. This aspect is the phone masts. So if we clicked on this, we can see within the region where the gateway is installed, the phone mast it typically connects to, and the phone mast it can see in the area. This is the network provider. This is the actual GSM SIM module within the actual gateway itself. So this is the model. G means global. And then lastly, we're looking at the phone network quality. So LTE, that is around 3.5 G. So that's the current timestamp data as you see, and obviously that changes over time. So next we're going to go into remote command controls. And to do that, we go to Setup and Remote Command Control. So noting initially we have 2 gateways. One is live and one is not live. So we're going to focus on the 5B. So first of all, we go down and we select 5B. We click off, and we can see here as default, the most common command is the user changing the sampling interval. And that's why this one appears. So this is command number 2, as we can see on this list. Now, it is on standard mesh, and that is the default that we sell the equipment on. Now, with the over-the-air programming, the ability in the future will be to change the system from a mesh to a star if desired. The reason for doing that is a one-to-one relationship, and we're covering more dynamic monitoring. But please leave this as standard mesh because this is how the equipment is defaulted at present. Then we're looking at the sampling rate, and you can select anything between 1 minute and 8 hours. So if you're not sure what you're currently on at the moment, if we review this box in the middle, this is a summary box in terms of the radio frequency, the time interval, the mesh upload ratio that I covered earlier, the mesh timeout, the radio signal sense, everything associated to the gateway you're reviewing at the moment. Now, if you wanted to make a change, and I'm going to give an example here where I want to change the gateway to 20 minutes, we'd select 20 minutes and we'd press send. The command is then generated and it goes into the command list as you see here. Now, when that gateway takes the command depends on when it wakes up. So a gateway when it's 5 minutes and less is always connected to the phone mast. There's little to no point it reconnecting and disconnecting from the phone mast. Therefore, a command is virtually an instantaneous action. When you're greater than 5 minutes, then essentially the gateway connects to the phone mast for 2 minutes, then sleeps for the next 13, then wakes up again and repeats. So you can see here, obviously, this command is trying to go out at the moment. We don't know when the gateway is going to wake, but if we look at the data last seen, we have an indication that the next time this will wake up is around 4:47. And obviously that command will be taken and then that time will change. So commands take 1 to 2 time intervals. So if you're obviously on 60 minutes, you could be looking at 1 to 2 hours for the command to have an effect. So that always must be considered. And obviously if you're reading very rapidly, the command gets accepted a lot quicker and the change happens. So sampling and changing the time interval is the most common command. We have the ability to schedule that command. So for instance, a user is having construction activity at the weekend and requires a faster reading interval. We can obviously press add. We can go to the weekend. We can pick the weekend. We can pick the time. We can say, for instance, we want it to go to 5 minutes. And then after the weekend is complete, or the works is complete, we can pick a date and a time, and we can revert back to the 60 minutes as we desire. Now, this is the scheduling function. One other thing to remember here is the powerful system, the smart system we have here in WiSen, is within the warning aspect, we can set the T interval to change with the trigger threshold. So if we hit a green, an amber, a red, or a black, we can increase the time interval to suit. And obviously, if we revert back through those trigger levels, it can slow down. So that's an automated system based upon trigger alerts to increase and inform you if there's something untoward. Now that command I've generated, we just look at this second tab here called log. You can see the command sitting here. Obviously it's tried to send it once, it's not successful. And that's potentially, or it is because the gateway is not alive to take the command. We can see the scenario I did earlier. Obviously it sent the commands 5 times. The gateway wasn't alive to take the command, but it was on the 5th attempt. Therefore it's successful and the change occurred. We go back to gateway. Just going to touch on the other commands. Now we pick the same gateway I'm interested in. Remember here, if both gateways are live, you can select all. You select the gateway and you can see lots of other commands that you as an L2 user will have the ability and function to control. So changing these commands is not a regular occurrence. If you want to know more about what these commands are, we can press the help button. And we can see here, starting at command number 1 at the top and then working your way down, you can look at what the function is with a description, the scenario when you might use it, and its usability. So how often is that command typically likely to be used? So we look at command number 2 we're focusing on, that's changing the time interval. It's used very often. We might look at the mesh timeout, so that's the amount of time that the gateway is alive at each T interval. So 2 minutes is the default. We might change that to 3, add a minute on, that becomes 3 minutes. So we're allowing more nodes to transfer back through the mesh to the web portal as desired. We have lots of other different types of commands that you will have. The radio signal sensitivity is a common one. Gateway sync settings, so you have multiple gateways. You'd like to sync the clocks so that they're all live at the same time interval and so forth. So that's to be read in your own time. We press OK. One other thing, just so I can highlight, we are logged in as an L2 user. Now if I was to log out and I log in as an L3, this would be a customer. Now we've created a customer login for you already, and this is obviously what I'm logging in as now. So as a customer, you don't have as many commands and as many functions as an L2 user. And we just go into the same project, or should I say this project, which is one of the ones earlier. And then we go to enter project. And we go to setup, remote command control. And then again, we've got two gateways. Remembering it's a different project, but what I've come to here for is just to show you that when we select a gateway and we look at the commands, then you have less commands because now we are an L3 user. So you can see here that these are the only commands a customer has. These are the common commands that a customer may want to change, control, so they look after the project themselves. If it's something more technical, then obviously they come to you in the first instance as an L2 user, or please do pass that on to WiSen support or myself, and we can assist you on that aspect. So, but as I've stated earlier, changing the commands from the default is few and far between.